Good morning. We are here at Maple Bay Marina with Mark Roberts from Lake Cowichan Fly and Tackle, and he's going to take us out and show us how to roll some bait. From cut plugs to pulley rollers to teaser heads, we're going to do it all and show you all the tips and tricks to help you maximize your experience out on the water.
This is the guy's guy.
Mark Roberts, it's awesome to finally have you on the boat. I met Mark last year out in Port Renfrew when he was absolutely kicking our butts, cut plugging for salmon out at Camper Creek in Port Renfrew. And I finally convinced him to get on the boat and show us some of his tips and tricks to help me maximize my fishing and help you maximize your fishing next year. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how long you've been fishing.
Well, I'm the owner of Lake Cowichan Fly and Tackle. I've been basically fishing since I was 5 years old, and predominantly bait fishing, cut plugging, running whole herring. It's a great way to fish. You're one-on-one with the fish, and you catch bigger fish. It's an art, it's a lost art.
The hook, the fish, the rod, and everything is just in your soul when you're playing that fish. It's awesome.
Well, what you're going to see today is just going to be one-on-one. You're going to see an 8-ounce weight. You're going to see 8 to 10, maybe 12 feet a leader. We'll show you techniques off the downrigger, and I also roll whole herring as well.
This episode is brought to you by Gone Fishing, serving Vancouver Island and beyond for over 30 years. West Coast Fishing Tackle, the quality anglers deserve. Parksville Boathouse, your full-service boat dealer and chandlery. Awesome. So we just rolled into Bold Bluff here and we're getting set up. Mark has a really interesting setup on his line here that I've picked up from him, and he's going to show you all the different ways that he's adaptable while fishing this setup. What do you got here, Mark?
Okay, so I've got 25-pound test main line. I've got a Danielson slider. As you can see, I've got a like a rubber bumper up the front. That's just strictly so that it doesn't go through the eye, or the Danielson goes through the eye. I got a double bumper system here, which we've actually got a toothpick. The reason for the toothpick is I now can adjust my leader lengths. Instead of having 10 or 12 foot leaders like most guys do, I can make a 7-foot leader and I can put it any way I want.
Yeah.
The other reason I do this fishing is because, and technique is because I can change from a 6-ounce right up to a 12-ounce weight with no issues at all. And then the other reason I do this is that when I'm trolling, I decide I'm going to go trolling and we're going to run spoons at. I slide this all the way up where I want it. I can hook this on and away I go. I can adapt to any type of fishing that is out here within minutes.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. So when you're doing derbies, tournaments, stuff like that, have your gear so it's completely adaptable to the surroundings and the area, because sometimes flashers produce fish, sometimes they don't. What I do here is I got a quick snap, and I always try to have the quick snap that it's going to relate to the bead size and keep it as clean, neat as possible. Clip them two together, and there we have them. That's a nice clean fit, nice and streamlined. Take my hooks. You still have 7 feet of leader where the bait can roll freely, and you still have a chance of still hooking good fish.
Teaser heads, let's talk about them, from the variety of colors to the variety of sizes and how you're actually going to rig this up onto a herring, because you use a small herring. While you can find anchovy bait at the fishing stores around here, we don't actually have anchovy in these waters. We mostly have herring. So Mark really likes to use small herring with his teaser heads, and it's a pretty cool little setup. Let's check it out.
So just like normal, I have about a 7-foot leader. I don't change. The reason for that is it's very adaptable all season, whether you're using a flasher or you're going to run it by itself. Quite often this time of year, and even through the winter, I run this teaser head by itself. And as you can see, I have the hooks very close together. Small herring are very predominant this time of year. So it's definitely something that you want to consider using rather than anchovy. The biggest reason is that's what they're feeding on. Match the bait, catch the fish. So one of the things I do when I'm picking bait, I also want to make sure there's lots of scales on it. Wet your hand before you pick up the bait. Very important so you don't take the scales off. Insert it into the head. And with Reese Davis, they have a little pin. Pop the pin in there like so. Holds the herring right in spot. Take your primary hook, or your lead hook as we call it, and I put it right at the dorsal fin, right there. Then what I do is I pull it straight, like so, put a slight bend in it, and always make sure that this hook is running freely. In other words, it's not bound. As you can see, this one is partly bound, and the reason for that is really important. If you can see that there, that will stop you from getting a fish. That right there in itself. So make sure that this hook is nice and free. Before you put it in, double check your roll one more time, or your bend. And as you can see, a slight bend just like that. That's all you need.
Beautiful.
And that will roll through the water nice.
Yeah, that looks really nice. I like that. I've in the past used treble hooks and things like that, but I really like the 2-hook setup. I also noticed that your hooks are quite small in comparison to what I've used in the past. And I know we've had conversations about this at the fly shop. And this is something that you're really adamant about for helping you to catch more fish, so that your hooks are a little bit smaller. They're a little bit more out of sight, out of mind for the fish. When you have big, godly hooks like what I've used, sometimes you don't catch as many fish, right?
Well, and that's the reason that I use a smaller hook, especially this time of year. Actually, even through the whole year, except for when I go up north fishing the bigger fish, then I'll run 5 or 6/0. But other than that, it's no bigger than a 3/0 hook. And the reason for that, it also makes the bait streamlined. It sits out there longer. And one of the biggest things that guys lose fish unless they're really feeding, especially with treble hooks, they get a taste of that metal and they're gone.
And they're gone, yeah.
That's it. Where this, they're more inclined to come right up in behind it and swallow the whole thing.
Right.
And that's the reason that I use these, and I've had great success with them, especially all year round.
And when you're running this setup, are you running a slightly bigger hook on the primary versus the stinger, or are they both the same size?
They're both the same size.
Okay.
And here's the reason being. If I lose that hook, I can lengthen it, do a Palomar knot, and put a second hook, and I'm in the water.
Ah, I like that
Okay.
trick. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that's
adaptable.
Adaptable. Again, if especially if guys are going to be doing lots of derbies in that, when your rods are not in the water, you're not catching fish and you're not fishing. Get your bait away from the boat. Now, we're doing probably 2.3 right now, and as you can see, the nice slow roll, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that roll. You can go up or down. As he slows the motor down, the roll will slow down. That's the roll that I like to use predominantly, but as you can see, I've got it away from the boat. And that's super important because that's the actual speed of what it's going to be like when it's down 40, 50, 60, 80 feet.
Mark, that roll is phenomenal. I love the way it's just flipping over as we're moving along here. Now, would you fish that with a weight, naked, and with a flasher?
You can do either or.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll just run this right off the downrigger by itself, especially wintertime fishing. If we're in the shallows, I'll throw a mooching weight on it. And I'll do my regular like I would with doing a cut plug, stretching the leader out, getting it away from the boat, put it out there, and away you go. Especially later in the year, it works great.
Okay, and if you're running it like that just behind your clip on your downrigger, how far behind the clip are you running it?
Well, atypically, I run about 25 to 30 feet.
Okay.
So
about 10 to 12 pulls?
Yeah, something like that. And that, the little red bead that's out there?
Yep.
There you go, it's right there.
Perfect.
And
okay.
that's where I'll run it. I'll clip it to the downrigger, go pick my desired depth. And again, the reason I get it away from the boat and the downrigger, it's out there by itself. It's very natural. So fish are not being spooked by flashers, downrigger balls with a glow on them, that sort of thing. A lot of glow products are out on the market, and nothing against it. It works, especially with spoons. It's fantastic. But sometimes fish just want something different. So throw something out there that's different.
And as natural as possible.
And as natural as possible, because they right now think that is an injured bait fish, and they're going to hit it.
This episode is brought to you by Gone Fishing. serving Vancouver Island and beyond for over 30 years. West Coast Fishing Tackle, the quality anglers deserve. Parksville Boathouse, your full-service boat dealer and chandlery.
So Mark just showed us how he fishes some of the smaller herring in a regular size Reese Davis teaser head. He also fishes larger ones in teaser heads, and he's going to tie up a teaser head setup here to show you how he would fish one of these, which is a medium-sized herring in a teaser head.
So we talk about adaptability. I use the same setup. I don't change. As you can see, both hooks are very close together. I just take off my Reese Davis head. I always carry a clear head with me. And I'll put it right in there right now.
Now, is there a particular color that you like more than another, Mark?
You know, chartreuse. This, as you can see, has got a bit of a purple in it, so they call it the purple haze.
Yep.
Right? It's quite effective. Any of your glow colors, white, chartreuse, any of the natural colors are really good. We just got to get that fed through there, like so. As you can see, it goes right through there. You pull it through.
And you showed us earlier, Mark, at the top, instead of using a bead, you sort of make a loop. How do you make that loop?
So it really, really easy. There's two ways to do it. I like this way. It's very simple.
Just fold it over once.
You just
twist.
Bind it on itself. You fold it over.
Oh, so you're just doing an overhand knot after you twist it.
Yeah, after you twist it, exactly. And you want it fairly reasonable.
Yep.
Right, like so. The other thing you can do, when you do that, if you want to just add that onto it, you can. You just bend it over like so. You put it through.
Loop it over top.
Loop it over the top, and now you've got a double knot on your...
Perfect. A great way to run a bead if you want to as well.
Absolutely. And there you go. It's just like that. You cut the tail end off, and it's ready to go.
Awesome.
And it works well.
Excellent. And then at the business end, you've got your two hooks. There's your medium-sized herring.
Yep. So we'll just need a toothpick. And we put the toothpick right in there, like so. And on the business side where the hook goes, again, I roll it in there, like so. And I always go right behind the dorsal fin. Very important that you do, because you want that stinger hook to be out.
Okay, so you just rolled it through there. You're not pushing it back into the herring. You're just leaving it like
I'm leaving it like so.
Pulling it tight.
I'm going to pull it tight. And again, we're going to have that roll. I'll take a couple toothpicks. Here we go. First of all, make sure you put your guide toothpick in there to hold your line, which goes in there. Break that off. The other toothpick, you need to make sure you go through here to hold the bait in its socket. You might have to get another one because fat fingers don't work well. And as you see right there, make sure you break off the end nice and clean. Like so. Now, the last little trick I do, I get my bend where I want it. And because larger bait will bend a lot harder, especially with the spread between the head and the hook, right behind the dorsal fin, to hold the bend, I stick a toothpick right up there, like so, and I bury it. What that does is stops the bait from bending. Now it's ready to go in the water.
Right on. We'll check that roll in a second. That looks beauty. So again, the two hooks, you brought that one through just behind the dorsal fin with this one sitting loose. Pulled it tight. Toothpick through the top to hold it in place. And then the nice little sweet trick there, a little Robert special, is another toothpick up underneath the dorsal fin to keep it bent.
Now, if you want to do that even with bigger baits, I used to carry skewers with me, and I used to put it right up the spinal cord, break it off. It keeps the bait rigid, especially if you're going to do long hauls. You want to keep your bait firm. That's just one way of.
So that little trick with the toothpick and the spinal cord is actually really cool. And I know something that Mark doesn't do, which is brine a lot of your bait. And so one of the reasons for that is just to hold the scent of that herring. You want the fish to smell the natural scent of the herring, so you're not brining as often when you're fishing this style of bait. Now, I think when you're not brining your bait, it is a little more malleable and not as stiff as brine bait. So a little trick like this, putting the toothpick up the spinal cord, I've never seen this, and I think that's a wicked trick. And I'm loving all these little things you're bringing to the boat, because my fishing game's gonna go up here this year. I can tell you that right now.
Well, one of the things is scent is super important with bait, and a lot of people will brine bait. And for an example, in the red cooler, I have brine bait, and I put that in last night. It's starting to stiffen up now. That's not brine bait, but it's very colorful. It's very bright. I use bright bait. I'm not a brine person, but brining has its place.
Okay, as promised, Mark's going to show us how he cuts his bait. And today we've asked him to do it in two ways. The first one's to show you how he runs a cut plug off of a downrigger, and the second one is the more traditional way of how he runs a cut plug.
This is a style of knife I use for cutting bait. I actually take the tip off my knives. And the other part that's really crucial, that you have a sharp knife. Clean edges is very important when you're cutting bait, especially when you're cut plugging. You don't want any frayed, because that bait can tear, and that will make it so the fish is not really attracted to it. So, and it'd impede your rolls. So how I'm going to start off here is, we've got a cutting board. Always make sure your cutting board is damp. Reason being is we don't want to lose the scales off the herring. Again, we want to keep as many scales on a herring as possible. And the biggest thing too is when you're cutting, and the cut I'm going to do now is one I would use for the downrigger. It's basically straight, so for people that are practicing it, use the cutting board as a guideline, so it's nice and straight. I do this quite a bit, so I'm going to just do it right like so, straight across. Once you're through the backbone, cut down. And as you can see, that's a very different sort of a cut. And there it is, and you can see the slight edge. And the reason for I do that is because I want as much meat on this side, and it's how I hook it up. Next, make sure your bait's clean. And again, you don't want to go through the bait. You just want to clean the guts out of it, and there it is. It's a nice clean cavity, ready to be hooked up, tested, and put on a downrigger. Distance between hooks is about 6 inches. For hooking up the bait, I always take my beak of the hook to the far side of the bait. And what I'm looking for is the backbone. And the reason for the backbone is because once you've got that, like there, now it's got a towing point. I take the trailer hook, I go through the high side. And again, we have a Palomar knot, and the reason for the Palomar, we're not making big holes like if you used a Snell knot. That's S-N-E-L-L knot for those folks out there. And then what I do is I bring it all the way down just past the top fin, roughly where an adipose fin would be. And again, I just pull it aside, I roll it through. Now, I got the hook right there. I roll it so that it fits into the hole, and as you can see, I haven't taken any scales off. Then what I do is I roll it back up and I bury the hook. And that's how I do that. That's how I do that roll. That's how I do the hooks. It's all on one side, it's nice and clean, and if you need to, you can actually pull the slack line up. I never worry about it too much, but when it tows through the water, always make sure your knots are nice and clean. There's no scales on the hook, and there you go. There you have it. It's just like that.
Yeah, that's a nice tight little drill bit style roll. That's exactly how I like my rolls to be, whether it's a teaser head or a cut plug or like this. Nice tight rolls. I really find hooks up good fish.
The thing you notice as well is Mark was really careful about not knocking any of the scales off of that. Look at that thing shine, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that unbrined bait with the scales there, you really see that UV shine off those scales, eh? That's incredible. I was always under the impression that you brine bait so that the hooks didn't tear out of the bait faster, but obviously the way that you hook it up through the spinal column and stuff like that, and you know, you being such an expert fisherman and only having bait down for 30 minutes, it's not really a big deal to have just fresh bait like that.
Well, it's like anything, the learning the technique and that, and understanding what fish are after. The biggest thing is that brine bait can work. It has its place, but if you brine bait too long, you start burning it, and it gets actually rid of the scent. So a hot brine will do that. So refreshing your water is also super important to do that. I refresh my water probably every 30 minutes as well, maybe 40 minutes. It's always fresh water, salt water going through it.
Let us know in the comments what you guys do at home. Do you brine your bait? Do you leave your bait unbrined? Do you have one cooler with brine and one cooler without? How does it work for you? And what are some of the techniques that you use when you are brining bait?
So one of the neat things about actually putting this show on the Guides Guide is that we get to go out with experts like Mark, and they show us their tricks of the trade. Mark's going to show one of his ways of fine-tuning this bait to get that thing rolling even tighter than it was before.
One of the things I do just to change things up, I actually cut the tail off and push against. Again, always push against, so you see the scales. That's what you don't want to happen, is lose those scales. So always make sure your knife is incredibly sharp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to retune the actual position, hook position of my hooks. Make sure you find the backbone. So what I did was I actually moved the hook higher up onto the bait. Let's give it a try.
All right, that's 2.5 there with the no tail on that little cut plug there, and that is just a sweet little roll. It looks just like an artificial plug because an artificial plug has no tail on it, and this looks really nice. I actually like this. This I would fish.
And that's the thing with this cut, is that you can actually speed it up, and there it is. Now it's going. Sometimes you got to encourage it, but it's tighter.
So I hope you guys are really paying attention out there, because we are about to show you the lost art form of actual cut plugging. This is something that Mark has brought to the boat and something that we've talked about a lot, and he has a couple of really, really cool tricks here. One of which, my favorite tricks, is he actually has a left and a right roll to help entice more fish to bite. If one fish, or if one bait is not catching fish on one side, it might catch fish on the other side because of the different rolls that he's going to show you here. And this is just such a cool trick that he brings to the table. Should we get to it?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Okay, so I've got a medium herring here. We'll use this as an example. Again, make sure your cutting board is wet. We don't want to lose scales. As you can see, it's really the bait has got lots of scales on it. I'm going to cut it on a slight angle. So for the folks, use that as a guideline if you need to. I'm just going to cut it on a slight angle. This is going to be a right-hand roll. As you know, as I push forward, that's when I'm applying the pressure to the bait so I can cut it. Again, we're just going to clean the cavity out. I'm going to turn it around, spit the hooks out, make sure there's nothing in there that light guts. You want the cavity as clean as possible. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to hook it, and again I have my 6 and 7 inch spread between my hooks. I put the lead hook and I look for a bit of a back right beside the backbone, and I put it up on the high side and I roll it up like so. Next hook, I'm going to feed through the cavity, pull it through between the main fin or the dorsal fin, kind of like an adipose area. I put the hook right there. I roll it up. Again, you're going to see me roll it so I can pull the hook eye and that knot into the where I penetrated through the side of the bait.
Mark, I noticed that you pulled that out of the water and you just tweaked it a little bit to get that roll just a little bit tighter by moving that front hook. What did you do?
So what I did was, in this case, I just changed the hook position. So I pulled the hook back out and I rolled it so that the beak of the hook was more to the downside part of the cut. Basically, we're just changing the fulcrum point or the center of gravity point, the toe point, and that just made enough to make the roll tighter. And that's the whole thing too, is that when you start playing with cut plugs, stuff like that, you're going to find what works for you. This is just an easy guideline. This is what I do. If I want to tighten it up, I just move the hook around. Hook position is everything, including the tail hook. But The stinger hook, try to keep that constant. Always move this hook. That's your point.
Excellent. And that's your right-hand roll. And as Tyler was saying earlier, you're going to show us how to do this in a left-hand roll as well.
It's just going to be like this, just the opposite direction. So before, I had the head facing this direction so that I could cut the bait. What we're going to do is we're going to roll the head the other direction, and we're going to do the same. So again, we're going to do a slight angle down, and we're just going to make sure we're going to push, right? And make sure it's a nice clean bait cut. Throw away the head. And again, there's that slight angle that we're looking for. We're going to clean the bait out. Get rid of the guts. Next, we're going to take our lead hook and put it just right beside the backbone of the fish. Go up through the ribs. Take our herring again. And I roll my bait hook on one side. I don't necessarily follow right or left. Just kind of a superstitious thing, I guess is a better way to put it. Again, put the hook in, roll it, and there you have it. That's it right there. So let's get it in the water and have a look at it and see what it does.
Tell me about that superstitious thing again. What do you do?
I keep the hook on the same side of the bait, and it's a superstitious thing. I've done it for years, and I just haven't changed. Just superstition. That's all.
Superstition ain't the way.
So here's something that's starting to happen. This bait's actually starting to bend, and that's impeding the roll that I would normally like. So in a case like this, and I know the bait is wearing, and we've been playing this for 20 minutes or so, goodbye. Fresh bait catches fish. So we're gonna cut another piece of bait right now. We'll hook it back up, and away we go. Nice thing is when you do turns, it'll actually speed up, and as you can see, it's starting to roll now. Nice and slow. So slower the roll, bigger the fish.
You have your bait head facing to the right, to the left?
So the biggest thing is you always want your bait, top of your bait, to face you.
Right, okay.
Okay? Again, like I use this as a guideline.
Right.
To create your angles. Then it gives, I do a lot of bait, so for me it's natural. But for people who are starting out, always give yourself a guideline to use to figure out angle.
Okay.
Okay? Go for it. So you're gonna just behind the gill.
Just behind the gill here?
Yeah, and you're gonna roll the knife towards the back.
And about this kind of angle?
About that angle, yeah.
And just slice down, right?
Yes, always, and then always push because, yeah, keep going. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with that angle right
beauty there.
You can work that.
A little bit of a tear there.
Yeah.
But that just comes with experience,
That comes with experience, and also making sure your knife is clean and sharp.
All right. So that looks pretty nice.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Now, big secret here.
Yeah.
Always keep your bait in one hand, and you want to cradle it.
Okay.
Okay? I noticed that you grab it before.
Yeah.
Don't grab it. You want to cradle it. If anything, you're going to use the palm of your hand like this to hold it.
Treat it like a baby. Like
Absolutely.
you were saying. I'm a little rough on it, aren't I?
Yeah.
So, main hook first. And
Yes.
do you like to go to the long side or the short side?
So in this case, the type of roll you're going to do is with right hand roll. You're actually going to go to the right side of that bone
On
right
this
there.
side.
Yeah, and just no, too far in. There you
here?
go. Yep. Right through.
Oh, okay.
Because what you're doing is you're actually hooking ribs. There you go.
Right.
There it is. Now through the
and then hook on the short
Yep.
side. Your
You
stinger.
can do it any side. I mean, I got a little bit of a superstition, like I said before. I always have it on one side.
Right.
But that hook position too can also change the program of how the bait's going to roll.
Right.
But atypically, it's your lead hook.
And then you go this way.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So run it through the cavity.
And right along this
Lateral line.
and right along the lateral line, eh?
You got her.
Okay. Run it through that cavity. Try and cradle this fish as best I can. Right through this lateral line, right about here.
Right about there. Yep.
I'm tearing a few scales here.
That's all right. It's practice. That's not.
So down through.
Yeah. Roll it.
Roll it now?
Yeah. Start rolling it.
This way.
Nope. What you're gonna do is you're gonna roll it up. There
Yep.
you go. Pull it through. Yeah.
And now you roll down.
Nope. pull it right tight, right as far tight as you can, right back to there.
Yeah.
Now roll the hook. No, the other direction.
This way.
And then pull. Now what it does is, yeah, there you go.
Oh, it really buries
It
that
really
knot
buries that
nice.
hook. Now push it forward. And there you are. That's it.
Yeah, okay, that was a big difference. I understand.
See the huge difference? You got way more scales on this go around.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I like that. Let's see how it rolls, eh?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Just like Mark mentioned, we won't drop the bait in the water. We'll kind of hold it above the water, let it in real nice, and we can check that roll. Oh, yeah.
See, you know that hesitation roll out there?
I mean, we're only doing one, so we can do a little bit faster.
Bring it back. I ripped off the tear. The tear will actually stop your roll.
Okay.
Okay? Now, we're still not satisfied with the roll on this. So again, we can just change hook position again one more time. And as you see it, I've leaned it more to your high side.
Yeah. Look at that. Now we're, oh.
She's lazy.
She's a lazy roll, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what, if we were fishing up north, I'd be throwing that out there. There you go.
Goes. So basically what happened there is water needed to fill within the cavity.
And away it goes.
And now it's starting to roll good. Before we had a little bit of that gut still left in there, and water wasn't quite getting into the gut cavity enough, right? That's
Correct.
what I'm guessing.
Now, what's the difference between your bait and how we set that one up is, if you take a look at that bait, it's diving into the roll, it's not tail walking the roll.
Right, okay.
Big difference, right? So that's more of a crippled fish that's been hit. What do crippled fish do? They actually roll.
Right.
Right? So that's kind of where you're at. I'd throw that roll out.
Interesting.
100%.
Okay. I'm definitely gonna have to do some practicing this summer. It's gonna be,
you know, again, it's an art. I mean, to get a drill bit roll every time, that takes years of practice.
This is why I use teaser heads and anchovies or small herring, because I can get that drill bit style roll every single time. I've done it so many years. Cut plugging, I mean, I did in 2007 for a season, a little bit, but cut plugging it really is an art form, from the cut to gutting out the gut cavity
to bait preparation,
bait prep, and it's so fun because like running bait, you're really customizing your fishing experience. It's not like fishing a spoon or fishing a plug or fishing a hoochie. You are really like customizing that bait to your experience and then fighting that fish, which is so awesome. So thanks so much, Mark, for taking us out. Did we learn a lot?
Absolutely, Mark. You know, the other benefit, obviously, of running a bait like this is that you get that direct hookup with the fish.
Yeah.
There's no other hardware in the way. I learned a lot today. You learned a lot today.
Definitely.
Thank you very, very much, Mark, for coming out with us today. We really appreciate it.
Love doing it. Anytime.
It's been another episode of The Guide's Guide, today with Mark Roberts from Lake Cowichan Flying Tackle.
Awesome. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And let us know what you guys want to see in the future for areas, guides, species, any of that stuff. We'd love to hear your feedback.